Anyone, your mailman, person that delivers your milk, if you're still that lucky, or anyone else for the matter. So please go ahead and donate if you can, but tell other people about the station if you cannot. It all helps. Today is the 2nd of November 2023, completely arbitrary, of course, in the cosmic sense. You can catch the cave on the air, on the line, and onto your smart device. So you can have to listen anywhere or listen at home on the Grace Table of Digital Radio. Yes, the files are in the computer. The files are in the computer. Archives are free, which is great. So another reason to donate or tell people about the station. Before we start broadcasting at you in anger, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which we broadcast. And for Dave,
it's the Dark and John.
Thank you, sir. And for myself, of course, the rock people here in, well, it's quite a nice day in Hanoi. Not hot, but warm. And we would like to pay our respects to elders, past, present, future. Yes, they say. Tell you what, Dave. It's how can I put this best? All the goodwill, and we talked about this. All the goodwill the Israelis had after the Hamas attack has evaporated completely evaporated, and it is clear now that we were right, and they're going to bulldoze Gaza.
That's right.
That's what's going to happen.
Car park.
It's good. Look, where do we park? It doesn't matter. What? Oh yeah. Look, it's it's something interesting happened this week though. Two things happened. Two things. King Charles, and I've got an Irish friend. He's a great guy, Stephen, if you're listening, and he's got a really not a thick brogue, but he's got an Irish accent, right? He does it, and he can put it on really well. So this is King Charles III, as we all know. Now, if you're Irish, it's King Charles the Third. The Third.
Be sure it is.
To be sure. Welcome to Tipperary. Hi, King Charles the Third. The Irish must love this. They must love this. I hope his name is going to be Charles. I hope he's going to be king. Oh, that's gold. No, but he went to Africa. And he acknowledged that there were genocidal crimes committed by the British Empire during times of colonialism.
No.
Hundreds of thousands killed in the Mau Mau rebellion. Short of an apology, because an apology would mean there's admission of guilt and liability, which of course means compensation. Didn't quite do that. But he goes, I really have to inform myself better about all these colonial crimes that happened. And I thought to myself, well, you're King Charles III, and clearly you must have gone to the best schools Mother Britain has to offer, okay? And you didn't know about the colonial crimes that the English committed. Now, having said that, the second thing that happened is the Germans also apologized for colonial crimes committed in what used to be called, East Africa or East, Southeast, whatever. In Namibia, Zambia, and other nations were part of that. And the Maji Maji rebellion saw 300,000 Africans killed as well. And some of their skulls taken to museums, etc., etc. And they apologized unreservedly. And they also, I think that they paid 1.2 billion euro in compensation or some such. It's really interesting because, if we talked about this, right? We talked about the crimes of colonialism, but also the crimes of anyone who wears a crown, or at least the crimes that were committed by their ancestors, right? This is now, it's all kind of, we're trying to work through it. And let me ask you this, my friend. So it seems that people are trying to work through it. Where are we going here? What is there like an end game? What are we trying to do?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Oh, I wonder.
Right? I mean, they're all apologizing.
Uh-huh. Is this the moment that the real civilization wakes up and goes, "Wow, was that me?"
Yeah, right? Now, having said that, hold that thought, because I've been thinking about this a lot. If you transport yourself, because it's easy to judge from where we are. It really is. Here we are, fat and happy, and sitting here and passing judgment on previous generations, which were clearly more primitive and less educated, less enlightened, not privy to the human condition, and completely devoid of any empathy. That's what we think.
Sounds about right.
Ancestors, right? However, and this is really important to remember, and I'm not being an apologist here. I just want to infuse a little reality into this whole thing. A couple of things I'm going to mention here. At the time, in the 17th, 18th, and 19th century, right, the Europeans expanded massively. And it sort of started, I guess you could say it started with Columbus in 1453, right? You could say that. But it was a European-driven colonial conquest because, I guess the Europeans were just the most ruthless and brutal at the time. They're trying to, get away from this little continent. There are too many people here, too many. Find somewhere else to go. And really, what they tried to do was trade. They tried to trade. That's how it started. The Chinese did it. The Arabs did it. Like everybody was trading all over the place, all the time. The Europeans just took it a step further. Now, but within the context of them, you always have to understand there was no such thing as globalism. There was no such thing as seeing the human race as one cohesive unit. It was highly nationalistic, highly selfish nations looking out for themselves, really. That's what it was. Fighting each other and then coming across these seemingly primitive peoples across the world. Not all of them, right? In fact, some of them were more advanced. They just didn't fight hard enough, especially in South America. But the Europeans come along, and there are a couple of concepts here that are really important. And this is one had to do with the conquest of North America, which was called Manifest Destiny, meaning God had ordained them to go. And another one was around the God-given right to go and Christianize everybody. So we got Christ. You don't have Christ, so we are winning anyway already. We're already winning, right? So that's to be clear here. We're winning and you're not. So, but we better bring you Christ, and you're gonna meet him real soon. You're gonna meet him real soon, and that's what happened. But within the context of the time, that's how people saw the world. If Dave or I would travel back in time 150 years or so, and we go and start saying, we shouldn't really be doing these colonial things. What are you talking about? You're completely insane. I mean, look at these primitive people. God has asked us to look after them, right? And you know what? We will. I mean, that's how the South African, the Boers went to South Africa in the first instance, because they're running away from religious persecution, right, down to South Africa. And God, and that's what they were teaching in school, God had told the Boers to go to South Africa and what's the word they used? Something like shepherd the Africans.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that they were teaching that the God-given right to rule in school. That was part of the canon. That was part of what children learned in school. So you have to understand what the times were like. People like you, maybe the listener that is quite appalled and disturbed by all these crimes against racially different people at the time, it would have been thought to be insane. They would lock you away forever. Because, what do you mean? No, we have to look after our own. What? Human rights for who? Those people? They're not even people, okay? They were cannibals before we got here. Now, that's not entirely true of everybody. I mean, they were cannibals, but it's always good to... and then, look, they're running around naked. It's indecent, they're immoral. They're probably devil worshippers, they've got demons all over the place.
And they don't even know it's wrong to do that.
See? So, within the context of the time, all the things that happened are completely understandable. Now, fast forward 100 years to 2123.
Boing. Oh, look where we are.
Oopsie, oh, still no flying cars. Man!
Really?
What? Now, they will look at us and go, oh my God, look at all the things all the wars. Gaza, they were killing children. They were bombing whole people. Ukraine and Russia. What is the war in Yemen? Huh? Black deaths in custody? Come on, guys. And while we know there are certain things amiss here, within the context of our time, it's actually understandable why these things are happening. It's not an excuse, but I understand why all of these things are happening. In 100 years' time, that understanding might no longer exist.
Yeah, that's right.
As visceral as we have it. So it's really easy to sit in judgment, but the truth is we really can't. Because to Dave and Mackie in 100 years' time, we're just as bad as them colonials.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. So, where are we going to end up here, Dave? I tell you what, I don't know, because I'm worried about the situation in the Middle East. I really am.
Mm-hmm.
All these troops are, and everybody's sending troops there. I mean, there's a bucket load of troops going into the area, ships and ground troops. The thing that blew me away, as you know, Dave, is that we sent troops to the region.
That's
we,
right.
Australia.
Yeah,
What?
Yeah.
What are we gonna do? Oh, Hamas is threatening us. Another thing, though, two things, in fact. Hate crimes, Dave. You've seen that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's the puppet show, right? Oh, yeah, let's pit people against each other. So we saw the hate crimes against Jewish people across the world.
Yeah.
And a huge, massive rise in anti-Semitism. But we also saw a massive rise in anti-Muslim sentiments. And in fact, the Muslim boy was killed last week, in fact.
Oh, wow.
By his landlord, 6 years old, stabbed to death for being, I guess, a Palestinian and a Muslim.
He must not have paid the rent.
Something like that. But this is a global thing, right? This hatred that has sort of spilled over. The Ukraine war didn't occasion that kind of reaction. Yeah, there were protests, but there weren't any hate crimes against Russians that I recall, or hate crimes against Ukrainians
Mm-hmm.
in any country that I could see. Not on this scale, certainly. Protests, yes. Demonstrations, absolutely. That all happened. But this is different. And it also goes to show just how deep this is. Muslim, Jew, Christian.
Yeah.
Should be brothers. They're not brothers. They're not brothers. But it's deep, man. It's deep. What can we do? It's insanity. But I don't know. What's been happening in your world, my friend?
Oh, well, I can talk about it now. I couldn't talk about it before.
Go on then.
I was a juror on a case. I was selected. See, in Australia, I don't know how it works everywhere else on the planet, but here in Australia, it's if you're on the voting roll, which we have compulsory voting, so everyone has to be on the voting roll, then from time to time you can be randomly selected to turn up at a court and represent a case as a juror. But because they'll pick a crazy amount of people, say 40 or 50 people, to attend a court session, the first of the court sessions, where they select the jurors. You get selected or rejected by both sides, both what we call here the Crown and the defence, or the prosecution and the defence, depending on where you are on the planet. And once those 12 are chosen, you're it. The judge does not decide the case, you do. And as a group, you must deliberate. And in Australia, it's unanimous, not majority vote, but unanimous decision making. So that all of us were part of it. And I kind of started thinking about it like, well, maybe to save the person who was the firing squad person, not everyone would have bullets. Or blanks or whatever, instead of real cartridge. And so that you didn't know whether it was your shot that killed the person or not.
That's right.
And that kind of saved the mental stability of your team, your firing squad team. Because, imagine a firing squad of just pure bloodlust killers. Actually, that's how you probably should have best employed them, right? But no, they were, for all intents and purposes, yes, they had a job, but they weren't. That wasn't their profession so much, right? So anyway, I sat on a case which I would still won't talk about too much, rather than just the topic, which was really hard, Becky. I'll tell you. It's the first time it's the second one I've sat at, but the first time where they actually read the charges out to the jurors and said, if you're uneasy about the charges that you'll have to decide upon, then just put your hand up and say no.
Look, video piracy is just the silent
video piracy.
I hear you, man. It's horrendous, right?
Yeah, you can turn your stomach making with all those downloads going over. Did you know what was that? The most downloaded TV series on the planet ever?
Game of Thrones.
Yes, well done.
Because it was that. Yes, Minister, right?
Yes, Minister. It was Hey Dad. No.
Hey Dad. Oh, that's another one.
Yeah, so that's a bit too close to the topic, but I don't want to say the topic too much. Just that. Look, I was part of our legal system for almost a week, right? And we were lucky, but when we got there, our case was on and off interrupted by another case who was deliberating after seeing the evidence. And look, it was a very challenging situation for the people who would decided that were chosen. Even the subject matter was difficult to hear evidence for repeatedly by different people, then talking about it, and so the unanimous vote for the 12 people upon, and I'll say the prosecution, but it's the Crown in our case. The Crown is obligated to prove the case against the defendant, and it isn't the role of the defense to prove anything. The Crown must have had enough information and a strong enough case to be able to prosecute. So look, it's very challenging. We got about half. 50-50 male female, and the age group they decided would be good for the case would be people of children, you know, who have had children. Not that they know any of it back and they don't, but people of the age at which your children would be that age, and that's what looked like their their criteria. All I'm going to say, very tough, and the females of the on the jury found it distressing after we had handed our verdict, but were very strong throughout the decision-making process. It was very emotional and a hard thing to undergo. That's all I'm going to say. I appreciate the work of everyone that not just the jurors, but everyone there. And I don't know how they do it, day on, day off.
I can tell you that people that are working in this. I worked with a gentleman who was part of a royal commission into something unpleasant.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the Catholic Church.
Yeah, we had that. That's enough. Yeah.
And he, not having been, he didn't experience anything himself. He was just part of the work of the commission.
Mm-hmm.
And he read all the witnesses there. But he suffered from PTSD afterwards. It's so well.
We had a very similar situation, but it was an extended family member.
I expect something like that. But
it
can really see. The thing is, we all think we're tough and we're hardened. So we all watch TV and movies, and we see probably 100 murders before we turn 12.
Yeah.
No, not really. If you're confronted with the real thing, and I always say this to people, do martial arts. Just do something that lets you be in the moment and deal with things in the moment. Internalize it and really understand what's happening, and then try to deal with it. Because most people just get hit in the face. I imagine, Dave, it's just like a slap in the face. It's like
with a trap,
yeah, and a gut punch as well at the same time, right?
Yeah, look, it's confronting is probably the best way to put it, and I've had a lot of hardship in my life, but that's certainly, it's on the list, but I'm more well prepared to deal with it, I think, mentally. But I'm still going for a day of decompression tomorrow. That's what my goal is.
You got it.
Yeah, you got it. I've got to know. I've got to get zero again. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, look, we were thanked by the magistrate or the judge for accepting the case, because the amount of people who put their hand up to say, "Wow, that's something I'm not willing to even go there." Right. Extraordinary. And look, like I said, I am happy that we were all part of something. And if the amount of effort that we put in was ever required of 12 people to judge me and evidence against me as a defendant, I would hope they put it damn well as much effort as we did in.
No, you're going to get a kangaroo court, buddy. That's what's going to happen.
Oh. So
bring in the hanging judge.
The hanging judge. Blow the dust off him.
Judge Roy being the hanging judge.
Who's we hanging? Who's we hanging today?
Where's hanging that boy over there? He bad.
So yeah. Anyway, that's what I've been up to. But look, I'll tell you. I just want to take it back to you. I know that you mentioned the word Yemen, and there was a Saudi bombing of Yemen. Well, I think it's like the slapping game, Mickey, for some reason, because I think Yemen has now sent a missile to Israel.
Correct. Well, a few, I think, and they were mostly shot down by the States. Right.
And so it's like, hang on a minute. Out of all the countries That's where you're taking out your grief, right? What about Saudi Arabia? Do you remember they were bombing you recently? Right.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend, or the enemy of,
right.
of my enemy is also my enemy because they're just different. So
my last point is that once again, and I'm just going to use the same words I used last time, de-escalation isn't in the vocab of our world leaders right now at all. De-escalation. No one seems, apart from China, I think, who was trying to own the de-escalation there and trying to make deals. Apart from them, none of the West. We're all like, yeah, woohoo! I can imagine the Raytheons and the Halliburtons are sending their salesmen, right? They're polishing their boots and saying, well, what can we sell them?
Mm-hmm.
What weapons do we have now that's brand new that would do this job? Because if there's a problem, Mickey, there's a weapon to fix it.
You know it. How big a bullet do you want? I want the biggest bullet that you have. That's the bullet I want.
That's a very funny joke.
Chris Rock said it best.
Oh, really?
We don't need gun control. We need bullet control. That's what we need. True. It's true. Yeah.
Oh, we had lots of casual conversations this weekend, and one of those was I gave that fire example because they got some person threw the throwaway line out there into the middle of the room. It was, America needs gun control. There's been another shooting. Sure. So if there's a fire, do we talk about fire control? Which is just ban fire. If there's fires, which is ban fire, because fire's bad, right?
Fire's bad.
Fire equals bad. Hang on a minute. So the easiest way to arrest a fire, because it's only three components, is fuel, heat, and oxygen.
I know. Oh? Remove oxygen.
Yes, that's great. Yeah? How do we do that? I'm not quite sure. But you can take the heat out, or the fuel out, or the oxygen out, and each one of those will result in the same thing. The fire goes out. Unless, of course, it's an EV fire, and that's a exothermic reaction producing its own oxygen. So that's just, don't talk about that. But in the case of gun violence, that seems also prevalent, but you've got to realise today that our reporters are just chasing the victims, right? Because that's where their news stories come from. And no one is willing enough to look at the real cause. So if you do that, think about this yourself. So, the fuel, heat, and oxygen. If you have a weapon in a situation, yeah, and the situation has other people in it, there's one of those can be removed and it's de-escalated. So you can just be a person in a situation and nothing happens, right? It can just be a gun on the ground in a situation because you remove the person, right? There's nothing happens. You can have a person out doing things with no situation, or each one of those means that there's no gun violence. But I then elaborated, but hang on, what made it? What's different about today where it's more prevalent, where we've accepted that the solution is via the weapon we have? And they go, oh, it doesn't happen elsewhere. And I go, it does. It's actually, in England, it's knife violence is up around the same kind of numbers because people just grab the thing that is going to solve it. How did we create people who believe that that's the right outcome? That's it. It's on us, not on the weapon. It's on us. It's not about the situation. It's about the person's holding the weapon that thinks that that's the correct way to solve the problem. And I think unless we, get better as a civilization, there's something we've missed. Because I remember, carrying weapons. I've talked about this forever, but carrying weapons home from school because they locked up the gun cabinet and you couldn't return it after the shooting lessons. Right? I'll bring it back tomorrow. Yeah, cool. People didn't go postal, right? So that's a really simple example, but it's really not it. I know that America has a greater past, and which is very hard to admit, and that's about the Wild West, and we all saw Wild West. We might have all played games as children with cap guns and he who has the gun solves the situation. Maybe there was something there. But if we think that there's any other solution rather than teaching people that isn't the correct way of solving a problem, then the thing's going to happen regardless of what weapon we have. And now back to you in studio, Mickey.
No, look, what you said about fire is hits it on the head on the nail on the head. It hits all kinds of nails with all kinds of heads. But we had this discussion around other forms of weapons. A truck was used. In fact, several trucks were used to kill people quite horrifically in Barcelona, for example. I went there the year after, and I went to the place where it happened, and I looked at it. It was, it's inconceivable that it happened, but once you stand there and you look at the place, you go, oh my God. It's I can see how it could happen because it was a pedestrian area, fairly wide, but nowhere really to run because there's like shops to either side, and if the truck comes running, there's really no way you can, unless you're lucky enough to get into a shop and there's a door open or whatever.
There wasn't any way to avoid it, right?
Not really, no. In fact, over the din of the people, you might not even have heard the truck, right?
Oh wow!
Because it's really packed. It's like it's hard to understand unless you see it, but it's very wide, right? Like maybe 5-6 highway lines wide as a pedestrian area, and then but it's packed, and there are trees and all kinds of things. Anyway, so what do? You get rid of all the trucks, and then someone gets hit with a rock, so we'll no more rocks, and it's just getting to the point where, well, anything really. I was going on a plane. I think I might have said this before, but I don't know. For some reason, I only had carry-on. If it's only for a couple of days, why check your luggage? That's stupid. So off I went and had my little vanity kit, like a nail clipper and whatnot, right? And I'm stopped, and I go, okay, you've got to. Sorry, we have to check. So okay, so I took out my little my kids gave it to me. Father's Day, like nail clippers and a file and all that, right?
Oh yeah.
But these are nail clippers that wouldn't.
They don't open more than like a 1/16 of an inch.
You couldn't cut the stem of a strawberry to harvest it.
That's right. It's too large. Yeah.
The kind of nail clipper that I was carrying, and there was also a nail file in it, which was the nail file was probably, I want to say, 3 inches long, quite pointy, right? So I opened it up, my little. It's like the palm of my hand, right? That's how big this thing is. The whole little case. And she goes, yeah, we sorry, we got to take those clippers. I said, what? Yeah, the clippers, they can't go on board. But the nail file is okay. Yeah, that's fine. If I were
the stabbing that you could do with a little nail file.
If push came to shove, my weapon of choice would be the nail file. I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't go for the clipper.
You're not going to say, can I give you a pedicure, huh?
Yeah, it's like, and I looked at her, right? And then look, she knew the insanity of the situation. Yeah, you could tell in the face. Right? It was a slow day. There was not very many people flying. But this was fairly recent. And I looked at her. I wasn't going to argue. I was just giving her that, wow, right? Really? And she goes,
that's what we're doing?
I so hear you. She wasn't saying it, but she was saying it. Right?
Yeah.
And I go, okay, no, I take it. Or, do you want to, no, just chuck it. I mean, I'll come by another one, I'm sure, somehow. But it's the insanity of it, right? Okay, gun control. We've had guns in circulation now for several hundred years, ever since they were invented. Some nations are more into guns than others, and some people are more into guns than others. I have got friends who are sporting shooters, right? And they enjoy hunting and they enjoy vermin control. In Australia, that's actually a thing. Because we have a lot of introduced species here, right?
Fools.
Not just the cane toad, mind you. And they have to be controlled, like foxes, red deer, But even native species, like the grey kangaroo. So you have to shoot them. That's the best way to control it. Pigs as well. Wild pigs, they're the worst. And so that's what you do. But we've never really had a problem with mass shootings. Yes, we have a lot less people than America. Right? I grant you that. We've only ever had one bad mass shooting on the scale of America. Only one. And that was the one that triggered the harshest gun control laws ever.
Never waste a good opportunity, Mackie.
Never. Now, I've looked at, I think I've talked about this before, but I looked at this study conducted by an ex-military colonel, Australian colonel, into the shooting.
Yes.
And I've got to find it. My friend's father had the entire report. And essentially, what the colonel concluded, I think it was a colonel, that there may be 3, 4, maybe 5 people on the planet that could execute a shooting like that with the level of professionalism, accuracy, and I guess speed of reaction.
All right, so Mackie, just to qualify this for the people who really aren't gun people, what do those things mean?
Right. So most people understand shooting out in the wilderness. Like you have like a target that's very far away, and you take your time to shoot, right? Because you're in a prone position normally, and when you're hunting, especially, you could be in a stand or you could be behind some barricades or in cover somewhere, but you're waiting to take your shot. That's what most people consider shoot, or target shooting for the matter, but the target doesn't move. So you go from target shooting to hunting, but again, in a hunting situation, you take your time, right? You don't run after your prey like an idiot. It's not going to help you any, right?
That's right.
In fact, if you see, this is what people
you get a lot less accurate.
Yeah, and see, people don't understand 2 things. One is muzzle velocity, and the second is the unsteadiness of the human body in general. So what does that mean? In high-powered guns, but in any gun, it is important that you aim at something and keep it aimed at that thing if you want to hit it. Okay? It is really, really hard to hit a moving target, especially if you are moving. It's not easy unless you're spraying everybody with bullets. Like if you spray everybody with bullets, someone is going to get hit with something, right? The same thing with a shotgun. Something is going to get hit.
Yeah, but so like just for instance, if you're on horseback attempting to shoot a target, you have to be very good. In fact, you've got to be like one of the best shots on the planet 100%. To be able to hit something from a moving horse.
100%. In fact, the Mongols made an art form of it. The mounted archers they had. Devastating weapons of war. No, so, and then you also have to be able to control your breathing. You have to control your heart rate. Because any of those things will make your hands shake, will make your shots inaccurate, etc., etc. So what normally happens in a mass shooting with an untrained shooter, the ratio of wounded to killed is usually very, very high.
And to bullet. So each round, the kill ratio is very low.
Yes. and because you tend to spray. And, if you look at Columbine, I mean, they were spraying bullets, and for most untrained shooters, that's what happens. You just spray bullets, like they're going out of style. A sniper, a trained marksman, a trained military person, a trained assassin, if you want to call it that, is a very efficient machine. Also, not really into waste. One shot, one kill is really what you want to do. One shot, one kill, one shot, one kill. Maybe double tap to make sure, but one shot, one kill.
Get in, get out, not be seen.
Get in, get out.
Right.
Control the environment. If you do martial arts, you know what I mean. You have to control the environment, and if you can't control it, you have to be aware of it. Okay? So what happened in the Port Arthur shooting is that people were shot in a cafe at close quarters, and usually single kill shots. Single kill shots. This person wasn't spraying the cafe with bullets. They were systematically shooting people with a single shot to kill them. Okay. Another thing that people don't realize just how hard it is to hit a small target. It's a lot easier to hit someone in the body than in the head, because it's just a much bigger target. And that didn't happen here either. Okay, so this person was a dream of efficiency when it came to killing, the spatial control. And the thing is, he had to stay out of grappling range too, because you never know, right? You can't be, he was close, but you can't be so close that people can actually come and grab you.
That's right.
But he was completely aware of his space. He was controlling his space, and he was picking his targets. And in my mind, he was probably taking his time. His reaction time must have been phenomenal. But he was making sure he was doing a good job. And then other shootings that followed a similar pattern. Contrast this to what happened at the shootout at the cabin, or during the shootout when they had Brian cornered. So police surrounded the cabin, shooting into the cabin, and Brian, who wasn't I think he was like a hobby shooter, right? If anything, but not a trained assassin. They're very different things. He was spraying bullets like they're going out of style, not hitting a thing. As he was defending himself, he wasn't hitting a thing. The person that was shooting in the cabin was a very different person to the person that was shooting in the cafe and the other sites. Two very different people. Sorry, the reason we started talking about this was gun control and all that. In my opinion, and in the opinion of this military person that did the analysis, Martin Bryant was not the shooter. Okay, it was someone else. By the time they had Martin Bryant surrounded at the cabin, he was probably already leaving the country. That's my contention. That's what I think happened. They took him out of the country because, like I said, there may be maybe 4 or 5 people in the world that could pull that off in the way it was pulled off. Okay. Bullet to kill ratio, kill to wounded ratio, and then, of course, the exit. So we have gun control. Now, gun control is only useful to the parasites, right? Because ultimately, law-abiding citizens will give up their gun if it came down to it. Okay, new gun laws, gun amnesty, etc., etc. So you're a shooter, but you can't have those kinds of guns or any kind of gun anymore. So off you go to the police and say, okay, well, here's my gun. Take it, because I'm a law-abiding citizen. That's what I am. Every criminal in the world will go, yeah, you've got to be joking. That's my hammer. I'm not going to give, you can't ask a carpenter to give up his hammer. That's just silly. Okay? No, people that are going to use guns for illegal purposes will continue to use guns for illegal purposes. Okay?
And also obtain them illegally.
Of course. In fact, these days with the 3D printing technology that we have, you don't even need metal guns anymore. You've got ceramic guns, hardened plastic. It's a free for all almost. You can actually get templates to print your gun. And even if it's just a single shotgun, that'll do. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll just print more. So, no, I'm sorry. Gun control is not what we need. What we need is gun education. Gun education and gun safety. Don't leave your guns lying around. If you do that, you lose all gun privileges. If anybody gets access to your guns without your knowledge or without you securing them, all your guns will be confiscated. End of story.
Chief Wiggum. Now, I knew I put my gun down somewhere.
But look, it happens in real life. The 6-year-old took his mom's gun, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
No, I'm just saying, right? It happens.
Mm-hmm.
This is not fantasy. So gun control and gun education, because and I'll keep harping on about this. I learned about guns when I was like 5 or 6 years old from my grandfather, right? And he was very strict in his gun safety rules. Never ever point a gun, load it on, load it at a person.
That's right. Never ever. Yeah.
Never.
Right.
If you pull a gun on a person, you must shoot them. He said to me, because if you don't, they will shoot you.
That's
with
right.
your gun. That's what's going to happen.
With your gun, yeah, that's right.
So don't do it. Don't pull your gun on anyone. Don't do that. That's not what it's for, right? Self-defense, sure, yeah. It comes down to it. Better to shoot first and then see what the fallout is. But if it's to defend your life or the life of your loved ones, okay. If that's the purpose for your gun. But some people say, "Oh, I don't want to kill at all. I want to kill." Well, okay, then don't have a gun. That's okay. No one's going to make you do it, right? But no, gun control is not the answer. The answer is gun education, gun safety. That's the answer, and that's sort of what's not happening anymore. I think. Or not to the extent that it used to happen in the olden days, where a gun was just a tool. I got a gun. Oh, yeah, well, that's nice. That's good. What you do with it? I'll shoot rabbits. There's got too many rabbits. That's why we built the fence. The Chinese wall. The wall of China was built because there were rabbits. And if the Chinese had guns, there would be no wall of China. Think about that for a second. Oh no, it's not true. But ultimately, they want to disarm you, because the very first thing that Hitler did, that I think Mussolini, Franco, even Stalin, all of them, not that the Russians had many guns to start with, sent 10 men against the Germans with one gun between the 10.
Wow. And they can take turns?
One holds the gun, one holds the bullets. The other 8 are just, there's the wall running. No, but they all bring in gun control. They all brought in gun control because they know that guns in the hands of the citizenry are a bad idea. That's why the Israelis have guns in the cupboard. Gun control. You don't hear about many mass shootings in Israel, do you? I mean, yes, terrorist attacks, yes, but nobody's going off their rocker and shooting like their colleagues or whatever. That doesn't really happen much in Israel. Same with Switzerland, where every Swiss person of military age has an automatic assault rifle in the cupboard. Don't hear too many gun crimes in Switzerland, maybe mass shootings. Either. So it's not the gun or the prevalence of the gun in society. It's who has the gun and how little education. I mean, none of the gang members, I guarantee you, Dave, none of the gang members in anywhere, any city, like whatever gang, none of them would have had gun safety lessons.
Hello?
Bullet goes here, bullet comes out there. Stay away from coming out end.
That's it.
Right?
Yeah.
That would be
I see your point you're making there.
It's silly to want to control all guns, but of course the agenda is to control guns, right? Because then control becomes a lot easier overall. That's really where everything is heading anyway. Can you imagine, once we go into these high density housing complexes that everybody's dreaming about, especially Klaus Schwab, Mr. Schwab, there wouldn't be any guns allowed in there. No way there would be guns allowed in there. Forget about it.
No, that's right.
Not going to happen, right? So that's. Oh no, we're going to move in here. Can't have a gun. Sorry, brother. Oh no, I'm sorry. Not going to happen. So that will sort of solve itself, I guess, if people stop moving in there. I'm not looking forward to the next 50 years, unless something happens.
Well, wasn't it a prophecy that it works really well for a long time?
Mm-hmm.
The next part of
1,000 years.
1,000 years. There you go. Yep.
Well, that's what. Well, look, I mean, I'm not a religious man, but the Bible says that the beast will rule for 1,000 years. Whatever that means, it's possible. Yeah, people like.
It's a bit cruel to call Klaus a beast, but
I don't think it'd be him that's ruling, bro. I think it's just an enabler.
I'm making a joke.
I know.
Because whatever system we put in next, it's got to be better than this one. And you can only imagine, Becky, if you were doing really well in this one, that you wouldn't want this one to change.
Well, that's the thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have to wait for our generation to just go the way of the dodo.
Yeah.
And because we have desexed a whole generation of people. They don't know if they're coming or going, man. And I'm thinking, wow, okay. Again, maybe it's a sign of the times, whatever. But if you can fundamentally influence the way a person sees themselves and you instill this level of uncertainty about themselves at that level, at the gender level, I mean, you're a winner. If you can instill that level of doubt about, well, what am I? A man or a woman? I don't know. What is a woman? That's a loaded. These days, that's a loaded question. Give me the definition of a woman. Don't do it, Dave. You're not going to survive it. Don't do it.
I do like that sketch that they did for that.
I know.
With the spelling test, the spelling bee. Yeah.
I know.
Can you use it in a sentence? No.
No. We have to. In fact, if we go down that path, we have to eliminate these words from the English language. Man and woman have to be gone. Male, female, gone. Gender non-specific. Hello, gender non-specific 1. I'm gender non-specific 2.
I played Panicky Idiot number 3 in the Poseidon Adventure.
Birthing name of Epsilon.
Mackie, I always thought that the legal system would be the first to reduce or boil down gender to be person. Because there are some rules in our legal system which is polarized to one or the other. Usually an exception for females. Whether it's not that females can't drive or can't do education or whatever. I'm not pointing that out specifically, but rather that there is a one rule for males, and then there's an exception rule made specifically for females. So, look, delete the exception rules, make the male one or just down to person. Don't have race in there. Have no specific rule for any race whatsoever. Just boil it down to just person, and you'll have heaps less rules to have to worry about. I know the 10 Commandments seems like a pretty simplistic view of the world, right? Compared to our legal system today, which is hideously complicated. But that was to cater for specific instances.
But see, that's also not good anymore. Mother and father. What they should say is, you should respect your parental units. That's what people say.
That's really an affectionate way of referring to them, isn't it?
I know. Speaking of which, I've just received an email from Global, like a global person, whatever, a lady,
mm-hmm.
and in brackets behind her name at the signature it says she, her.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tempted to put in brackets and behind my name, Fluffy Rainbow. They, them.
Use adjectives, not nouns.
Adjectives, not nouns. Thank you so much for sharing your hour with us. This has been Plato's Cave. Don't go anywhere. I'm sure something is going to come up that's going to be just riveting. But most of all, be safe.